I can tell you where the church has condemned religious liberty over and over and over and over again. Pope after pope after pope has made it clear that error has no rights. No rights. And so we're being led down this path to hell, telling everyone we're fighting for religious liberty, religious freedom. It's against what the Catholic Church has always taught. Because there's only one true church, only one true religion. And there's only one worship that's pleasing to God, and that's the Catholic Church. And you can't save your soul in any other church. And so I've been trying to get this through to people that this religious liberty is nonsense. It's heretical.
We see this false religions being promoted. In the United States, we had, even the church was promoting religious liberty. Religious liberty is condemned by the Catholic Church, saying that all religions are equal and everyone has the right to worship whatever God they want and however they want. That's heresy. Error has no rights. Nobody has a right to worship God only in the way that He has revealed. He has revealed that to us through His Son. And so here we are, Catholics, not me, many people out there on the streets fighting for religious liberty. And many years did it, not even know that it was wrong.
We're not crying out, this nonsense about religious liberty drives me nuts. It's condemned by Holy Mother Church. 9 popes have condemned religious liberty. Because religious liberty said that everybody has a right to worship whoever they pray to in any religion they want. Nonsense! There's only one God, one faith, one baptism, and there's no salvation outside that church.
This whole religious freedom thing that was going on in our country, with even church people, you can't do that. You're saying that we have a right to worship any God we want and religion we want. That's a lie from hell. Because if you believe in religious liberty the way they were teaching it, you know where it ends up? This is where it ends up. That 9/11 was a beautiful day. Well, you say, Father, are you crazy? What do you mean? Well, it was jihad. And in the Quran it says, kill the infidel 27 times. And they did it in the name of their God, which is not God. That means that was a good day, because they were being faithful to their religion. How can that be true, religious freedom, in that sense? They had a right to kill those innocent people? Error doesn't have rights. It says in the Quran, the Holy Trinity is abomination. Anyone who worships will burn in hell for eternity. You're telling me a Muslim has a right to say that? No way. No way. It says in the Quran, sodomize little boys. That religion's from hell. I'll give you another example. This is crazy. I'm making this one up. Say your neighbor's a Satanist. And guess what? That's a real religion in America. I was going to a prison. I've been in prison ministry on and off. And now I was out for 2 years. They just pulled me back in. I was sitting in the head chaplain's office, who's a Protestant. And they said, yeah, so how's your Satanist doing? Because he's in charge. He said, yeah, we got 24 now. And they have a right by the government to worship the devil in prison. And they have to be supplied whatever materials they need. So that's religious freedom. What if they want to kidnap your little girl because they need a sacrifice hub, because they have black masses? You would have to say, well, they have a right. That's religious freedom. I use examples like this because you need to hear the truth. And I know when I explain it on a level like this, it clicks. You say, you know what? That doesn't make sense. Because it doesn't. It's from hell. The only right we have is to worship God the way He has revealed. And the church condemned anyone who says different. And I could give you all the backup on that. So don't fall into that stuff today.
Liberty of religion has been condemned by the popes, Gregory XVI, Pius IX, Leo XIII, Pius X, Pius XI, Pius XII. You are not free to choose your religion. You are bound in conscience to choose the Catholic Church and to belong to the Catholic Church. And if you don't, you will go to hell. Okay? Or as the church says it, objectively speaking, you cannot be saved. The church cannot condemn anybody into hell, not even Judas Iscariot. There's no pronouncement on him, ever. So, anybody who thinks that he's free to choose the religion might go to hell for it. I am bound in conscience to adore God in the way that God wants me to adore Him. And that means I have to be a Catholic even if it costs me my life. There is no such thing as liberty of religion. Forget it. The next one among the most scandalous documents of Vatican II is the Declaration on Religious Liberty. The title itself is to be condemned. Declaration on Religious Liberty. Vatican II, Dignitatis Humanae, December 7, 1965. It starts with blasphemy. Number one, contemporary man is becoming increasingly conscious of the dignity of the human person. St. Pius X said, the only dignity in the human person is in his being a Christian. Leo XIII said, enough talk about the dignity of man, let's talk about the dignity of God. Consequently, the Council says in number 2, the Council further declares that the right to religious freedom is based on the very dignity of the human person, as known through the revealed Word of God and by reason itself. This right of the human person to religious freedom must be given such recognition in the constitutional order of society as will make it a civil right. Can you believe this? Let's see what the Catholic Church says about that. In Mirari Vos, Gregory XVI condemns this concept when he says in number 15, from this poisoned source of indifferentism flows that false and absurd, or rather extravagant, maxim that liberty of conscience should be established and guaranteed to each man. A most contagious error, to which leads the absolute and unbridled liberty of opinion, which for the ruin of church and state spreads over the world, and which some men, by unbridled impudence, fear not to represent as advantages to the church. And what more certain death for souls, says St. Augustine, than the liberty of error? The very proposal of religious liberty, something that was found among proud souls in the 19th century, was condemned by Pope Pius IX. The document is called the Syllabus of Pius IX, Syllabus of Principal Errors of Our Time, which are censured in the consistorial allocutions, encyclicals, and other apostolic letters of our Most Holy Lord, Pope Pius IX. It is a collection of statements from the writings of Pius IX, issued by the Holy Office in the name of the Pope, sanctioned by him, and it gives a list of 80 statements. All the 80 statements are solemnly condemned in this document. And anybody who agrees with any one of these statements automatically ceases to be a Catholic. So understand, what I'm quoting now is not the doctrine of the Church, it is condemned. Number 15. Every man is free to embrace and profess that religion which, guided by the light of reason, he shall consider true. Condemned sentence. Number 16. Man may, in the observance of any religion whatever, find the way of eternal salvation and arrive at eternal salvation. Condemned sentence. Quoted by Vatican II as doctrine in the aforementioned document and this document. 17. Good hope, at least, is to be entertained of the eternal salvation of all those who are not at all in the true Church of Christ. Condemned statement. 18. Protestantism is nothing more than another form of the same true Christian religion, in which form it is given to please God equally as in the Catholic Church. Condemned statement in the collection of Pius IX. not literally quoted by Vatican II, but indirectly. The syllabus makes sure that the document on religious freedom, written up by the Council Fathers, is un-Catholic, contradictory to the teaching of the Church. Cardinal Ratzinger has admitted that. Nobody of the so-called halfway 50% or 45.5% traditionalists who say Father Hess should not break with the Church by saying that Vatican II is heretical, anybody who says that is really in contradiction to the present prefect of the Congregation of the Faith, who said the decree on religious liberty is certainly an anti-syllabus, and the syllabus is the list of condemned sentences which I was just quoted to you. So Cardinal Ratzinger says the same thing that I do. Why he does not draw the consequences is not for me to judge. But the decree on religious liberty is definitely to be condemned. And it is, as a matter of fact, the point in which Archbishop Lefebvre said, no, I will not sign anything anymore now. Some of the first documents, nonetheless, they contained all the errors. Archbishop Lefebvre signed, and he said, because at the time we were not able to imagine that a pope would sign documents that are wrong, so we submitted. Understandable error, and I can tell you I'm a witness to this error because I committed it myself many years ago. I said it's impossible that the Pope signs things that are against the faith. I have learned my lesson, and so have you. It is through his conscience that man sees and recognizes the demands of divine law. He is bound to follow this conscience faithfully in all his activity, so that he may come to God, who in his last end. Therefore, he must not be forced to act contrary to his conscience. The Church never said that anybody may be converted by force. But at the same time, the Church said, if you do not conform your conscience to our teaching, you will, excuse me if I say it in the Irish way, go to hell. And now Vatican II requests the states to turn this into a law. In number 4, therefore, provided the just requirements of public order are not violated, these groups have a right to immunity so that they may organize themselves according to their own principles. They must be allowed to honor the supreme Godhead, or whatever that is, with public worship, help their members to practice their religion and strengthen them with religious instruction, and promote institutions in which members may work together to organize their own lives according to their religious principles. So please contribute to the next donation to build a mosque in Los Angeles. The Pope sent a delegate to the official opening of the Islamic mosque in Rome. Friends of mine in Rome who belong to a group that is called very right-wing, but they are very Catholic, catapulted slices of salami into the mosque. God bless them. Actually, what they're good people. See, we shoot them with slices of salami. The Quran says in Surah 47 that they ought to kill us. Well, Vatican II is certainly a perverted council, because it is actually here requesting from the civil authorities to give complete freedom to all the heretical, schismatical, and pagan religions. And this is something that has been again condemned by Pius IX in the Syllabus. I quote, Number 20, the ecclesiastical power ought not to exercise its authority without the permission and assent of the civil government. This is now in the Parliament statement I quoted before with the Orthodox churches. Number 21, the Church has not the power of defining dogmatically that religion of the Catholic Church is the only true religion. Vatican II doubts it all the time. They do not say exactly the same, which was condemned here, but they always say something which comes out the same. Because if the Catholic Church, if the civil authorities that always, throughout the tradition of the Church, had to submit to the Pope, remember Gregory XVII excommunicated the German Emperor for not submitting to the Pope, and Henry VIII was excommunicated, rightly so, because he split with Rome. Now Vatican II says this is all right. And as a matter of fact, the Pope, together with that abomination of a so-called bishop, calling himself the Archbishop of Canterbury, being a layman, of course, because their orders are definitely invalid, as Leo XIII declared dogmatically in his Apostolicae Curae, the Pope, together with a layman in Canterbury, blessed the people. If I had been stupid enough to be there, I would have walked out. Number 22 of the condemned sentences. The obligation by which the Catholic teachers and authors are strictly bound is confined to those things only which are proposed to universal belief as dogmas of faith by the infallible judgment of the Church. This is a necessary requisite in order to be able to have dialogue and in order to say that the other religions can save you too. I have told you what the other popes have said about a hierarchy of truth. And at the end of the list of condemned sentences, we will see what Pius IX said about new theories on the powers of the state and the relation between church and state. In number 77, a condemned sentence. In the present day, it is no longer expedient that the Catholic religion should be held as the only religion of the state, to the exclusion of all other forms of worship. This sentence has been condemned. Now, the document on religious liberty asks the civil authorities to turn religious liberty into a civil right. What was the result? The Constitution of Colombia in South America said that the official state religion of Colombia is the Catholic religion, the Catholic faith. The Pope, Paul VI, had them remove that. The Vatican exercised pressure on the Colombian government for more than 3 months until they gave in and cancelled that paragraph of their constitution. Archbishop Lefebvre, who was well versed with the different constitutions of the different parts of Switzerland, different provinces of the Confederatio Helvetica, which is Switzerland, the Helvetic Confederation, said that in one of the French-speaking parts of Switzerland, to be precise, the Rhone Valley, the Canton Vaud, their local constitution held the Catholic religion as the state religion. The Apostolic Nuncio in Switzerland forced them to remove that paragraph. This is the interpretation of the document on religious liberty. So let no man say that I viciously interpret it in a way they don't. They interpret it even stronger than I would have ever. Another condemned sentence is 78 of the Syllabus. Hence it has been wisely decided by law in some Catholic countries that persons coming to reside therein shall enjoy the public exercise of their own peculiar worship. Now this is a direct quotation from Vatican II that has been directly condemned by Pope Pius IX. Okay? Number 79. Moreover, it is false that the civil liberty of every form of worship and the full power given to all of overtly or publicly manifesting any opinions whatsoever and thoughts conduce more easily to corrupt the morals and minds of the people and to propagate the pest of indifferentism. Mind you, this statement is saying it is false to say that the pest of indifferentism is provoked by civil law allowing all religions. Vatican II demands from civil law to allow all religions and foster them and help them. Number 80. The Roman Pontiff can and ought to reconcile himself and come to the terms with progress, liberalism, and modern civilization. This has been condemned. The Roman Pontiff can and ought to reconcile himself and come to terms with progress, liberalism, and modern civilization. Religious liberty, Vatican II says, religious communities have the further right not to be prevented from publicly teaching and bearing witness to their beliefs by the spoken or written word. It's time to put the Jehovah's Witnesses on welfare, isn't it? Also included in the right of religious freedom is the right of religious groups not to be prevented from freely demonstrating the special value of their teaching. The special value of their teaching. Yes, how about the Islamic viewpoint on women? Also included in the rights of religious freedom is the right of religious groups not to be prevented from freely demonstrating the special value of their teaching for the organization of society and the inspiration of all human activity. This is not coming from Andrew LaVey, if you know whom I mean. This is not coming from the White House. This is Vatican II. These groups have the right to decide in accordance with their own religious beliefs, the form of religious upbringing which is to be given to their children. This is why now, when a Catholic marries a Protestant, there's no further demand of having the children baptized Catholic. It doesn't matter anyway. The civil authority therefore must undertake to safeguard the religious freedom of all the citizens in an effective manner by just legislation and other appropriate means. It must help to create conditions favorable to the fostering of religious life so that the citizens will be really in a position to exercise their religious rights and fulfill their religious duties, and so that the society itself may enjoy the benefits of justice and peace which results from a man's faithfulness to God and his holy will. Who are the only ones who fulfill the holy will of God? The Catholics, nobody else. Vatican II says they all do. I think this is sufficient as far as the document on religious liberty is concerned. Another last quotation. The freedom of the Church is the fundamental principle governing relations between the Church and public authorities and the whole civil order. This is right, of course. The Church claims freedom from herself in human society before every public authority. The Church also claims freedom for herself as a society of men with the right to live in civil society in accordance with the dependence of the Christian faith. So now here we have for the first time a proper understanding of religious liberty. Why is it that the Catholic Church has never publicly condemned the First Amendment to the American Constitution? Because the popes have always known that if a country is not Catholic anyway, we might as well use their ideas about religious liberty. This does not make it teaching. Vatican II turned it into teaching. The First Amendment to the American Constitution, adopted in 1791, is not teaching. It's a workable arrangement, nothing more. The American Constitution is not a document that teaches the people. It is not a religious document. It is not a document that says this is what you have to believe, but this is how we are going to organize our society. And in our society, with all the religions coming over from Europe, just think of the Mayflower that never sank, unfortunately. With all these religions coming over, the state had little choice. It might have strived for a more Catholic constitution, but anyway, it's not a teaching document. The scandal here is that Vatican II now turned something that we had to tolerate for 200 years into teaching. And at the same time, the Christian faithful, in common with the rest of men, have the civil right of freedom from interference in leading their lives according to their conscience. A harmony exists, therefore, between the freedom of the Church and that religious freedom which must be recognized as the right of all men and all communities and must be sanctioned by constitutional law. It is sanctioned by constitutional law in this country. But where in this document is the mentioning of Christ the King? Pope Pius XI in Quas Primas pronounced as a solemn truth to be held forever that Christ is the King of all societies, and that only in the kingship of Christ we are fully dignified human beings. As Pius X said, the dignity of the human being lies in his being a Christian. This document, even when it talks about the freedom of the Catholic Church itself, does not mention Christ the King. This goes to show you in which spirit these things were written. I've dealt with religious liberty. Sad as it is, this is not yet the worst to come in Vatican II.
And here, I'm going to give you these two examples, and I better stop it. I'll go on for another 2 hours. If you believe in religious liberty, then you have to admit that these are two examples that people finally get it. You have to say that 9/11 was a glorious day. And you say, what are you, crazy, father? 9/11, the terrorists, so-called terrorists, took out the Twin Towers. All those people died. You say, well, yeah, according to religious liberty, it's a good thing because in America and throughout the world, they recognize that religion, the Islamic religion, as a religion, even though it's a religion from hell. And all Islam, if you're a Muslim, you have to follow the Quran, or you're not a Muslim. And that Quran is written by the devil himself. In the Quran it says, all infidels must be put to death. All infidels must be put to death. It says many other things. It says that the Holy Trinity is an abomination, and anyone that worships the Holy Trinity will burn in hell. And then they try to tell us, even in our church today, Catholic Church, even some people in the Catholic Church say that we have the same God as them. Oh, no. They say the Holy Trinity is an abomination. So how can we have the same God? But anyway, so in America, according to religious liberty, they have a right to jihad because that's what their religion says, and they have the freedom to practice their religion. And they make no qualms now. Just go on any newspaper, these Muslims are crying up, say, we're going to cut your heads off. I remember when the Pope was in England, I went on the internet, I was watching some videos that weren't on the mainstream TV. And there was hundreds of radical Muslims, and they had film on. I was watching, and they were cursing, and they must have warned the Pope, because when he passed them, he always left and right. He wouldn't look to the left. He was only looking to the right, and they were cursing him. We're going to cut your head off. They hate him. They hate the Catholic Church. But they have a right to do that according to religious freedom. They have a right to put you to death. They have a right to follow the Quran that says sodomize little boys. I go on and on and on and on and on. So you believe in religious liberty? In this country, Satanism is considered a legitimate religion now. I was a chaplain in state prison right here in Oregon. And the head chaplain told me one day that he has 24 Satanists at that time. And he's obliged, or he'll lose his job, to give them a place to worship devil. You hear what I'm saying to you? Our U.S. government accepts Satanism as a religion in the armed forces. It's a fact. So, if you believe in religious liberty, then you have to say, if God forbid a neighbor of yours is a Satanist and he needed a virgin to sacrifice, he could kidnap your little daughter and sacrifice her. And you have to say, well, that's his right, First Amendment, religious liberty.